I think being a time genius is this experience of being in your full power. It's this experience of having that joyful, freedom-based life that most entrepreneurs, this is why we got into the game anyway.
Hey, my name is Jenna Kutcher, and I am obsessed with all things business, marketing, numbers, and helping you to navigate both the messy and the magical seasons of this thing called life. I'm a small town mama who took a $300 camera, grew a successful photo biz, and now I work from home and run a 7-figure online business. I teach you the tried and true secrets to building a career you adore. Shy away from the real talk? No way. Money, hardship, growth, loss, and marketing are all topics we discuss here. Think of this as your one-stop shop for happy hour with a gal pal mixed with business school. Pull up a seat, make sure you're cozy, and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. This is the Goal Digger Podcast. If you've been around here for a while, what I'm about to say is probably going to make me sound like a total broken record, but time is my currency. That phrase and that concept has led me through some major life transitions, from becoming a full-time business owner to writing a book to pivoting into new opportunities, and especially true as I became a mom and we grew our family by 2 sweet little girls. And those little girls, they have given me even more reason to value my time above all else. And they've also been the wild card when it comes to how much time I truly have. When our second daughter, Quinn, was born, I was also about to move into one of the busiest seasons of my career yet. And I knew that if I wanted to protect my time and fill the time that I had wisely, then I needed to tap into teachings from the best of the best when it comes to maximizing time. Enter my friend, Marie Forleo. Her reputation precedes her. She's an entrepreneur, an educator, a best-selling author, and truly one of the select few voices that I let speak into my life these days. I was super curious about her program, Time Genius, and during my last pregnancy, she mentioned that she was releasing it. And she said, Jenna, I really think you should enroll. But I had this moment of like, wait, do I even have the time to take a course right now? And as it turns out, that thought alone was the precise reason why I needed her course. It's all about maximizing and utilizing our precious time. And what I love about this course is it's not about working smarter so that we can work harder. It's working smarter so that we can claim back our life. Marie is back on the Goal Digger podcast today to talk about this topic of time, how we spend it, what's worth the investment, all the ways that she's maximized her time and what made her look at time differently, and how you can become a time genius. The thing is that if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I don't have enough time, well, that is likely a sign that you are ready for a new approach to time management. If time stress is something in your life, you have to listen to this episode. And beyond that, Marie is teaching a masterclass on 3 productivity mistakes you can't afford to make. And I want for you to sign up because her teachings on time have absolutely transformed my life this past year. I was a paying student. I took the program in 5 days. I recorded a whole episode all about that. But I want for you to learn her productivity mistakes because I don't want for you to waste your time on making them any longer. You can sign up for her masterclass at marieandjenna.com. That's marieandjenna.com. Now let's dig on in with my friend, Marie Forleo. My friend and repeat Goal Digger podcast guest, Sanira Madani, is on the HubSpot podcast network. It is so cool to be in such good company on the network with Sanira. If you haven't tuned into her show before, CEO School needs to be your next listen. CEO School is committed to closing the gap and helping more women level up by sharing stories and strategies from powerful women in leadership. Because nothing bad happens when women make more money. Sanira recently interviewed the OG girl boss, Sophia Amoruso, about building million-dollar brands, and media trainer Jessica Abo on how to nail your media appearances and pitches. Listen to Sanira Madani's show, CEO School, wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by the host of my online store, Shopify. Try Shopify for free and start selling anywhere. Sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/goaldigger. Oh, my friend, it is so fun to sit with you and have you back on the show. So welcome back to the Goal Digger podcast.
Thank you so much, Jenna. I love being with you.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a topic that honestly is one of my most downloaded topics, and it is time. the quest of saving time, how we spend our time, what we do with our time. Talk to me about your relationship with time and kind of how it's unfolded over the years.
I have always been obsessed with how do I become the most productive human I possibly can? So as a little bit of context, I am the I coined this phrase, multi-passionate entrepreneur. So my whole life, I've always had many different things that I want to do. And I also have ADHD. So I can have a lot of trouble focusing and have a lot of trouble getting everything together. So you combine those two things and the fact that I am this ambitious entrepreneur, and it's wild. So it has been an area of study for me, an area, quite honestly, of a lot of pain and struggle for most of my life. So I've gone down, reading every single book, understanding the science, testing and trying all kinds of different things in order to create for me a business and life that I love. And so my relationship with time over the years has had a lot of transformation, most recently in like these past 2 years. But to be really honest, Jenna, as I look back and reflect, I am someone who, I wonder if many of your listeners can relate to this, has been like fixated on time.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many journals where I'm mapping out, okay, if I wake up at this time and then I do this and then I do that, and then I get this amount done, and then I can, go work out over here or work on my next book and then spend time with but obsessed about doing things like that. And now I can see that it was because I was always feeling like no matter how hard I worked, how hard I pushed myself, I could never get it all done.
Yeah.
And I also realize now, in retrospect, how punishing I was to me, pushing myself beyond what I was able to do because I was trying to reach some idealized version of who I thought I should be and never quite measured up. And even though I've always had fun in my life and I've always tried to find some level of balance, I don't think until I really started to unpack my own dysfunctional relationship with time that I realized how torturesome it's been.
Isn't that wild to think about? You and I have so many similarities. I also have ADHD. I also am obsessed with time. I also am someone who time has kind of shifted. And I think that most listeners have been through something, whether it was the pandemic or a different season of entrepreneurship or shifting the way they work or the way they live or the way they parent or like whatever that is, where I feel like, especially like you said, over the last few years, our eyes have been opened to this idea of like, time is so precious. It is all that we have. I always say like, time is my currency. That's what I'm worried about spending correctly. Walk me through what the shift was for you a couple years ago and like what came out of that? Because I think a lot of people listening are like, yeah, my relationship with time might have like changed.
Yes, mine did big time. So, when 2020 happened and it kind of put everything on ice, and in many ways it shifted a lot of us into working a lot more, working differently. At the end of 2020, I had just lost my grandmother to COVID, and I started having all of these weird physical pains in my body. And I was actually on a FaceTime with my best friend, Chris, who is someone who lives with stage 4 cancer. And we were in the middle of a conversation and she watched me. I went, ow, like I winced and I grabbed my stomach. And she said, wait, what just happened? I was like, oh, I don't know. I probably either had too much popcorn last night or maybe I'm eating something that I shouldn't have. And she's like, no. She's like, what's going on? And I was like, well, sometimes I've been having these pains around my abdominals, but I'm sure it's nothing. And long story short, she said, no, you need to go get this checked out. And this was the time, Jenna, when there was no vaccines. Like we were still in the midst of all of us not knowing what we could do, what was safe, what was appropriate. And I said, I am not going into the medical system to go get a bunch of tests for something that's not wrong. She's like, you have to go check this out. So I go get a bunch of blood tests. Turns out blood's fine. Everything's good there. I went and had a mammogram, going like, just making sure everything's okay. Everything's fine there. Then we go to the sonogram and I'm laying on this cold table with a, paper gown on, and the radiologist literally moves the wand and I see her eyes bulge out of her head. And she goes, whoa. And I was like, wait, what? She flips the screen and she's like, Marie, do you realize that you have a tumor the size of a grapefruit growing outside of your uterus? And I was like, what? No, I did not. That's why I'm here. And she said, it's okay, but there's actually a lot of them and we're going to need to get you to a gynecologist immediately. So fast track, turns out that I needed to get an urgent hysterectomy. And so long story short, had the procedure. It was challenging. And it was the first time in my life, Jenna, that I have ever had to basically not move, not be active. You know, we talked about ADHD. One of the ways that I keep myself healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally is exercise. And after you've had this particular experience, it's like, you're not exercising for like 6 to 8 weeks. And in that forced rest, I had a chance to really reflect on how much stress I have been managing probably for my entire life. How much my desire to control my life, my business, everything around me had created this level of tension and stress inside my body. And you probably know this, almost 90% of all diseases are either caused by or amplified by stress. And so having this opportunity to be there for 8 weeks, it really made me realize how hard I've been pushing myself, how much that I have been entrenched in this toxic idea of how much I should get done, how fast I should get it done, how I should get things accomplished. And I had been working actually on Time Genius previous to this, but it was like this time out really made me realize that I needed to put this program together. I needed to shift my own relationship with time, and I needed to help people step away from the toxic 24/7 push that we've all been indoctrinated into, and give people, and myself most importantly, an opportunity to completely reimagine how we work and how we live so that overwhelm, overwork, burnout, distractions, feeling like you're pulled in a million directions was no longer going to be my reality or anyone's reality that I could possibly impact.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, it's crazy sometimes what life does in terms of forcing us of like, wake up. Like, it's happening and it's been happening. And I think too, for so many people, it's like, we just operate at that state of stress for so long that it's the norm. Like, it's like, you don't even know what feeling good is.
That's right.
Like, it's really interesting, even on my own health journey this year, where like, I was just so focused on like, how do I like get energy and what does this look like? And things like, I've always been like chronically fatigued and I just navigated life that way. And it's like, once you have it, you're like, how did I go this long without it? Like, what was that? And I think that's time for a lot of people. It's that thing where it's like, we've gotten so used to these patterns or the way that we spend our time that we don't even know what it would look like to have a pocket of time. And it's like funny because you and I, we connect so much on this. Like, even in my book, it's like this theme of like, we are just keeping distracted so that we don't have to have those sit on the couch moments of clarity, because a lot of times that clarity kind of unearths this feeling of like unease. But the way that I combat unease is like, what is the steps forward? Like, what is the first step forward? And I think that's something you're incredible at. You said the words time genius.
Yes.
What is a time genius? Like, walk me through what that means to you.
So time genius is this phrase that appeared to me when I was like, what is the opposite of what myself and so many of us are living in, which I call the toxic world of time stress, right? Where you're going from the moment you wake up until the moment you hit the bed. Sometimes you're waking up in the middle of night with anxiety of the things that you didn't get done or the things that you have to do. Your to-do list is a gajillion miles long. Every single day, you feel like no matter how fast you're running or how hard you're pushing, it's never enough. So that's time stress. We all know that world. And for me, this whole other paradigm of being a time genius is where you know that there is always enough time for what matters most. It's where you wake up every single day feeling energized, feeling clear, not feeling pulled in a million directions, knowing the few things that you are so excited to get done that day, and where your what I call success plan for the day, not your to-do list, but your success plan for the day, you've got really a handful of things that you can absolutely accomplish. And then there's all this white space that you've intentionally built into your calendar for things like wonder or play or being with your family or working on things that you've always wanted to work on, but you've never found the time for. I think being a time genius is this experience of being in your full power. It's this experience of having that joyful, freedom-based life that most entrepreneurs, this is why we got into the game anyway, right? Where it's like so many of us, I mean, freedom is my number one value.
Yes.
And I realized I was like, I am, I was like, I'm anything but free, right? Like this
literally.
And being a time genius just means that you recognize that you get to dictate your experience of time and that you get to prioritize and experience joy, not just on vacation or just on the weekends, but every single day. And you absolutely reject the notion that your self-worth and who you are as a being is tied to how much you produce.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that. One thing that I love and appreciate about you so much, and it's something that we've kind of pivoted even in my own podcast, I think as a result of your teachings, is that a lot of times we teach like efficiency and time hacks as this method of like, get more done in less time so that you can get more done in less time. You know what I mean? It's like you're saving time to spend it on working. And
that's right.
It's funny to me because I think a lot of times that's why I loved efficiency was like, oh my gosh, I can get even more done. Like I am the person who like literally wants to take the least amount of steps from like the sink to the laundry. Like I am like calculating everything in my head to save even like 30 seconds of time. I'm crazy.
I get it. No, that's that fixation. Most of people listening probably have it. We're like, yep, we do that too.
Yes. And so what I love about you is like what you teach and the way you teach it is like, here's how you get your time back so that you can spend it on what you value the most. Not here's how you can save time so that you can keep working harder. And I think that that's a really strong differentiation in this like efficiency world that we live in. And I love too how you're talking about like play and wonder and like all of these things, because honestly, I think you and I both can attribute so much of our success to claiming back those margins in our lives, to claiming back that white space. Because whenever I look at like these trajectory spikes in my own business, they always came from a season of rest. They always came out of a season that had margin. And so it's like so many people, they want more. So they're working harder instead of claiming back that time to like dream, be creative, have ideas, learn, study, like all of these things that actually move you farther more.
Oh, and give you this incredible, rich, joyful experience of life now.
Yes.
Not in 5 years.
Yes.
Not when you hit some milestone, but this is like the bag of goods that we've all been sold is like push. And it becomes a pattern.
Yep.
And I noticed for myself, as someone 20 years in business, I'm like, oh, wow. What got me here isn't going to get me to where I'm evolving to next, which is not push 24/7. And honestly, let me be real. Like Josh, my partner, we've actually been together just about 20 years. And I recognize that when I'm in a state of overwhelm, when I'm in a state of constant work, I'm not a great partner. Mm-hmm. I'm actually, let me just be real, Jenna, I'm bitchy. I can snap at him, right? I cannot be the best loving human to him, to myself, to anyone. Yeah. And I started really taking a look at like, what's most important to me? 2020 was this great wake-up call. Yeah. It's like, I want to be with this man. Mm-hmm. I don't want to just see him at night when I'm like exhausted and going to collapse on the couch. And I don't want to work my weekends or every single morning, like, forcing myself to wake up at some ungodly hour. Not that that's bad. Sometimes it's beautiful, but not always. And my friends and a sense of adventure and a sense of play. It's like, we all deserve that. Yeah. And it's completely possible to do as an entrepreneur, as someone who's ambitious, as someone who has ADHD, as someone who has lots of different things. Yeah. But it does require us first to understand. I tell people this: if you struggle with distraction, overwhelm, overwork, feeling like you don't know where to look, it's not your fault. Mm-hmm. You're not bad and you're not weak. It's just that we've all inherited this very broken, dysfunctional approach to time. And we're all living in a modern culture that is completely at odds with how our brains and bodies are built to thrive. Like these things interrupting us, we allow them to interrupt us 24/7, right?
Yes.
constantly being on social, constantly flittering between, 17,000 different windows on your desktop and jumping from thing to thing to thing, that has an impact on a neurological level, on a physical level. And you start compounding that over time. And it's no wonder that most of us are crumbling and that people are struggling to keep up. And they're feeling like there's got to be more to life to this, because there is. It's a whole different world that you can enter into. And, Jenna, I know we were talking kind of before we hit the record button, but I was just reflecting this morning with Josh. I'm like, I am a completely different person than I was years ago. And here's what's interesting. Right now, I'm getting a new book done. I'm working on so many things that I've wanted to do for so long. And simultaneously, I have more free time than I've ever had. It is wild.
Yes. Yes. Okay, I'm going to make you tell people the hack around the word overwhelm.
Yes.
And this statement, because I want them to take this into their life, because it is absolutely transformed my life. But I couldn't agree more. And it's so funny, Marie, because you and I, whenever we text each other, it's like, oh, I'm on vacation, or I'm logged off for the month. I'll circle back. You and I are just always on these adjacent calendars of here's what rest looks like, or here's how I'm moving through life. And I think that's so powerful. And before I have you share that overwhelm tip, you and I were together in Napa. I was quite pregnant, quite uncomfortable. And you were talking about this program, Time Genius, that you built. And you said to me, you literally were like, Jenna, I really think this is a great time for you to take this. I'm doing it in January. And, immediately I'm like, okay, I'm having the baby end of November. I'm still going to be on maternity leave. Newborn, 2 kids, all these things. I just the excuses flare up. So walk me through first your tip about overwhelm, because spoiler alert, I ended up taking the program, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this was one of the first tips that I learned inside of Time Genius. And then I'm going to tell you how I hacked what you taught. And it has absolutely transformed my life in an even bigger way. Okay. So you go first.
Yes. So I'm going to give the context for this. Okay. So, I was sitting in my kitchen actually in Los Angeles, and I just was talking with Josh about, how the day was. And he was like, hey, we should be going away. Where do you want to go? And I was like, babe, I'm so overwhelmed right now. I can't. I've got the Marie TV shoot coming up. We've got to, do the promotions for this new program. I'm just overwhelmed. And then another day would come and Josh would be like, hey, babe, how's it going? I'd be like, oh, God, I'm so overwhelmed. If I can just get through writing this next chapter of the book, and we've got to hire a new developer and this, that, and the other thing. If I can just get through this, it's all going to be fine in a month or two. And Jenna, I was constantly talking about how overwhelmed I was. And then there was one day in my kitchen where it was I had this moment, and I heard myself saying how overwhelmed I was. And it was there was the higher self in me going girl, do you hear what you are saying right now? Do you hear how you keep reinforcing I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed. And what I didn't realize, Jenna, was how I was conditioning myself to live in this state. It had become so comfortable, so familiar. It was like I was a fish in water who didn't know I was in water.
Yes.
Everything was overwhelming. And when I stopped and really recognized that, this magical phrase appeared in my mind. I didn't think it up. It was it came from some higher source of wisdom that said, I don't do overwhelm. And when I heard that phrase inside my head at that moment, I was like, oh my God, I don't do overwhelm. I don't do overwhelm. And understanding a little bit about neuroscience, right? Whatever we say to ourselves repeatedly in the privacy of our own mind actually becomes our reality. So I took that magical phrase. I said, this is now my new mantra. And I started to bring so much awareness to every moment of my day. When I was starting to go into that place, oh gosh, I was like, nope.
Yep.
I don't do overwhelm. It was as if someone asked me to go murder my neighbor. I'd be like, what? Are you crazy? I don't do murder. That's how abhorrent being in that emotional state of overwhelm became to me. And after probably a few weeks to a month of consistently saying, I don't do overwhelm, and also practicing that, meaning if I opened my inbox and it was just a mess, rather than going into that narrative, I'd say, you know what? I'm going to deal with this a little bit later. This is not my focus right now, to close it, and would not give myself emotional permission to live in that state.
Yeah.
Overwhelm became a neighborhood I was no longer willing to live in. And since I took that stand for myself, made that neurological change, changed my brain, changed my emotions, I am not kidding you. I have not been overwhelmed since. That doesn't mean that there's not a lot of volume sometimes, but I'm like, oh, okay, great. What do we need to dial back here? Who do I need to call? But I don't get into that same angsty, stressed out, victim-y place that made me feel horrible, stressed out, exhausted, and burned out.
You've probably heard the quote from the philosopher who said, "Change is the only constant in life." And it's true. Everything is always changing and evolving, but that doesn't mean we always enjoy it, especially when it comes to your business. HubSpot's CRM platform helps you make major moves confidently. Confidence to go big, go home, go local, or global. With HubSpot, all of your marketing and operations and sales tools are in one place, meaning you have the right data at the right time to make the right call. A single source of truth means your teams are supported by a powerful system that helps lighten the busy work and create more time and space for big thinking. As a connected customer platform, HubSpot provides more than just software. It helps you and your teams create deeper, more meaningful relationships with your customers so you can grow better together. Learn how HubSpot can help your business grow better at HubSpot.com. Have you ever experienced that feeling of making money while you sleep? There's literally nothing like waking up to that email from Shopify saying, "You've made a sale." Shopify makes it easy to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether you're selling digital downloads or physical products, which I've done both, start selling with Shopify and join the platform that is simplifying commerce for millions of businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you'll customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build the relationships that will keep them coming back. Shopify covers all the sales channels to successfully grow your business, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And thanks to 24/7 support and free on-demand business courses, Shopify is here to help you succeed every step of the way. It's how every minute new sellers around the world make their first sale with Shopify. And you can too. When you're ready to take your idea to the world, do it with Shopify, the commerce platform powering millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. Now it's your turn to try Shopify for free and start selling anywhere. Sign up for free with a trial at shopify.com/goaldigger, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/goaldigger to start selling online today. That's shopify.com/goaldigger. This is possibility powered by Shopify.
Okay. I love this so much because I often think of that statement and what it reminds me of, and kind of how it even transformed beyond that, is like, it's almost this identity, right? Like,
yes,
you kind of talk about it in the course, but like, you could say like, I don't want to do overwhelm, or I'm not going to try to do overwhelm, but that's different than just saying like, I don't do it.
Well, this
right?
is actually backed up by science.
Yes.
So there was a great study done by a behavioral scientist who found that we are actually 8 times more effective at resisting or changing a negative behavior if we use the words "I don't." So for example, rather than saying like, "I can't eat chocolate cake," if you say, "I don't eat chocolate cake," again, you're 8 times more likely to actually be in that positive behavior by just using that sentence stem. Yeah. And here's what's cool. Overwhelm might not be the thing that someone listening right now struggles with. It was certainly mine. There's a woman on my team who said, "Marie, I love this because it's based in science." She said, "But overwhelm isn't my thing. You know what it is? Guilt. I have my beautiful little daughter, and the truth is I spend so much time with her. However, my thing is I am constantly guilty. I am not spending enough time with my kid. I am not a good mom." I said, "Great. Why don't you try the sentence stem, I don't do guilt, and really own it. Yeah. Don't just say it in your head like flim-flammy, like really embody that, and do not give yourself permission to go down that road." I said, "Let me know how it goes." Jenna, it completely changed her life. Like the guilt went away. So for anyone listening, if there is a particular pattern around time and emotion that you're hooked in, I would invite you strongly to try out that sentence stem. Yeah. I don't do blank. We've had people do, I don't do procrastination. I don't pick up my phone first thing in the morning. I don't do overwhelm. I don't do guilt. You can have so much fun and try on one that feels really good. But again, this is scientifically proven to help you become 8 times more effective at adopting that new, healthier behavior and really becoming that new person that you want to be.
It's so crazy because I feel like even this tip alone changed my health in the sense of like the identity around things. Like if you think about identity when it comes to health, I feel like my previous identity was that I was an overweight person who was once skinny versus being a fit person who gained weight.
Ooh.
And when you look at the identity of that, you embody what you believe, right? It's right. Why a lot of people, kind of yo-yo or they stick to something and then fall off. And I was like, if I embody the identity that like, I am a fit and healthy person who once gained weight, whatever the reason why, it changes. Like I was on the plane the other day and I used to always get like Diet Coke and I don't even really drink soda, but for some reason, whenever I flew, I would do that. And I was like, no, I'll just have water. And like, it changes every decision that you make based off of how you embody that identity. And so when you say those like absolute statements versus being wishy-washy, it transforms everything. So anyways, just wanted to pass that along because it's totally like carried through in terms of like recognizing the identities that you carry around the words and the beliefs that you hold. So when we go back to January, I ended up taking Time Genius and a bunch of my team members also took it. And it was also fascinating because everyone committed, of course. And then as the time came, it was like that. I don't know if I have time for this. I don't have time for this. Now, you told me what Time Genius as an identity is. Tell me about how you learn how to be one.
So how I learned how to be one, once, this is the truth. I had an enormous Google Doc that I was collecting. This was like pre-2020 because this program has been in germination for a while. So I'm usually one of those people, my intuition speaks really loud and clear. And I was like, this is something I see not only myself needing, but so many people out in the world needing. And so becoming and creating. So was the question around creating the program or how one becomes a Time Genius?
How one becomes one.
So how one becomes a Time Genius is step number 1 is actually to upgrade your time mindset. And part of that comes from recognizing that there's actually another option. So that there is these 2 worlds, right? The world of time stress and the world of being a Time Genius. And when you start to pay attention to your own internal self-talk and your beliefs around time, that's when we get choice. Because like you said, if we're kind of like a fish in water and we don't even recognize like that there's another option, there's no opportunity that we have to change. So becoming a Time Genius, first and foremost, you have to realize that it's an inside out job. It's not about an app. It's not necessarily even about how you schedule or calendar things. It's not even about technology, because if you don't upgrade your own beliefs and your own time paradigm from the inside out, none of the external stuff is actually going to help you. It's just going to get you in that cycle that you were talking about in the beginning. Oh, how can I be more efficient? Then I can get more done. And then I can get more done. But you're never actually changing or curing the underlying sickness that makes you ill and stressed out and overworked in the first place. So that's step 1 is upgrading your time mindset. And, as you know, in the program, we teach people all different kinds of ways to not only identify where they're tripping themselves up, but also teach them science-backed ways to change their beliefs very, very quickly so that your experience shifts like that. So that's step number 1. And then step number 2, once you have the right time mindset in place, then we start looking about how to kind of begin to apply that in your day-to-day life in a way that's going to make sense for you. I think one of the things that was most exciting for me is, we're all at different stages and seasons of life. So it's not like the Time Genius system is rigid. And again, someone with ADHD and who's a multi-passionate entrepreneur, like I rail against too much structure. I can't have it. I don't thrive that way. Some people do. I don't. So everything that we teach you in the program, once you have the mindset shift down, it helps you pick and choose the tools and the strategies that you feel are going to make the biggest impact for you right now. And you can leave everything else to the side. I think that was probably, I don't know if your team reflected on that to you, that it's not about doing everything. It's about cherry picking a few strategies that can literally move the needle 100-fold very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so interesting to me, like a few of the takeaways that I got absolutely transformed, like how I felt. Because I think for so many entrepreneurs, like whenever I talk to them, it's like there are so many things they should be doing. And that to-do list almost haunts them, right? Like it is almost like you said, like this punishment or this reminder of like, why did you ever think you could do that? Who are you to think you could do all these things? What is that? And it's really fascinating to me, Marie, because when I look at it, and when me and my team were joking, when people were like, I'm too busy for this, I'm like, you need this the most. Like if you feel like you don't have time for this, that is the number one indicator that you need to figure out how to spend your time. Because what was so interesting for me is like, whenever I have a team member that I like notice, like they're on Slack at weird hours of the day, or like they're saying like, I'm going to go put the kids down and then I'll be back on. To me, it's not necessarily an indicator of work ethic. It's like an indicator of like a broken system or like needing support, right? Because I don't want my team to do that. Like I don't expect that myself to do that. And I don't want anyone who works for me to do that. And so it was really interesting. As a team, we had a Slack channel. As we were going through it, everyone was like dropping notes. And our takeaways were all very different, but they were also very aligned. And there were certain things on there where it was like, oh, I could literally implement this today and it could change tomorrow. So I'll give a teeny preview of one of the things that transformed everything for me. And you taught this inside of the program, but you talked about how a lot of times we wait until the very end of our day to make our to-do list for the following day, right? How many people listening, they're like, okay, 5:00 rolls around. I know I need to get home, or I need to get dinner on the table, or I need to pick up the kids. All of a sudden I need to fast jot down all the things I didn't get done. And I need to remind myself that I was a failure today because I didn't get these things done. And you're exhausted and you're already stressed about the next day. And now you're moving into the next part of your family life or your life, thinking about all those things you didn't get done. And you just teach about like, have a clock go off like at 2 p.m. or like when you're still fresh, or when you still have a little bit of time to maybe achieve some of those things that would go on your list. And it kind of like recalibrates. And it was such a simple change, but it is so one, effective, but two, it's almost like affirming, like it's confidence building of like, okay, here it's 2:00. What is my check-in? What can I accomplish reasonably in the next hour or two that I have? And then what's going to move the needle the most for the next day so that I can release these things from my brain, enter into the next part of my day without haunting myself or thinking about all these things. And for me, it was like this huge release because I also have ADHD. And part of my problem is that I could be reading a book to my child, but thinking about the email I didn't send. And
Correct.
When things are safely written down or safely scheduled, I release them. My brain feels like I can trust that they are not going to disappear and that I'm not going to forget them. Therefore, I am more mentally free. So just like that one tip alone changed everything.
I love that. And it's, and so many people too, I met in the program and entrepreneurs, like they'll wake up and go like, okay, what do I have to do today? And then they'll make the list in the morning. So even if we get people making their list, before they close up for the day, it's good. But to do it a little bit earlier while you still got gas in the tank, while there's still an opportunity to make some moves. And while you're very clear about not feeling bad about what you didn't get done, it is a game changer. I wanted to say that step number 2, we were talking about how do you become a time genius, and like it's from the inside out first. The second part of becoming a time genius, and I think this is what is so transformative for so many entrepreneurs, it's based on this rule/principle. When you know what's important, you can ignore what's not. Yes. And the thing that I've observed now that we've had thousands of people go through the program is most of us haven't sat down at this particular stage and season of our life. It could be this quarter. It might be this 6 months. It might be just the 4 weeks that's ahead of you, and said, what is the most important thing for me? It's not 5 things. It's not even 3 things. What's the one thing?
Yes.
And when you're clear on that, all of a sudden, talk about a release. rather than thinking that you should have 17 plates in the air at all times. And if you're not having the most strength in your body and you're fittest that you've ever been, if you're not meditating for an hour every single day, if you're not making home cooked meal, like you're somehow failing at life.
Yeah.
When you have the clarity that we teach you how to get, when you know it's important, it becomes so much easier to ignore what's not. Yeah. Then when all of these invitations come in, these fantastic opportunities that you would be crazy to miss, you can actually say no with peace.
Yes.
You can say no with compassion. You can say no without FOMO.
Yeah.
Because you have already decided between you and your higher self, your divine self, this is what's most important to me at this stage and season of my life. And it wipes the slate clean.
Yes.
You can get things done so much faster. You don't have all of those different energetic cords pulling in a million directions. And for the projects, the passions, the things that you want to engage in, maybe the next season, whether that's next quarter, next year, whatever it is, to your point, they're written down. You know exactly where they are. And when you're ready to go plunk that next one, you know you're going to get it. You're going to pop it into your primary project. You're going to build your day, your life around making this thing happen, whether it is a work project or a health challenge or a relationship that you want to heal and transform. You know exactly what's most important to you, and you are intentionally sculpting your day and your weeks and your months to bring that thing to life. It's a completely different way of operating. And what I've seen for myself and what I've seen for our students, especially entrepreneurs, you get so much more done, so much more quickly and joyfully than you could ever imagine.
You just made a really great point, and something that I have been thinking about so much in the entrepreneurial space is a lot of times we are so fast to want to adopt systems and strategies to market and content and all these things, right? It's all beautiful. I love that stuff. But the two biggest things are mindset and time. Because your mindset and what you believe to be possible, true, what you're capable of, all those things, and the way that you're going to spend your time on the other things, the marketing, the strategies, the systems, the content, that impacts the results. It is directly tied. I can't think of any other things that are so deeply intertwined. Now, the other part of that is if somebody's listening to this and they're like, if I'm looking at my life today and I can confidently say, I don't want to be doing this 5 years from now, again, what's going to be carried with you? Mindset and how you approach time, right? No matter where you go in life, if you are a stay-at-home parent, if you are navigating into a new career, if you are starting a business, if you're a side hustler, mindset and time are coming with you, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's fascinating to me. And honestly, it's probably one of the biggest mistakes I made in my career is that I was so fixated on getting teach me how to do this marketing, teach me how to do this system. I put off mindset and time for as long as I possibly could until I hit burnout. And it was no, never again. Right? We all have those burnout or those pause moments where it's wait, this needs to change. And so it's really funny to me because I've seen this time and time again where it's people invest in how to grow their Instagram following, all these things that are shiny, but it's we're missing the breadth of our life. We're missing life. Talk to me about that.
And also the fundamental thing that's actually going to get you where you want to go. So I want to just put a little button on this and then we can talk about that. It's made such a huge difference to me and thousands of people. So when you become masterful with your attention, your focus, your energy, your ability to flow and get things done, your ability to not be distracted, your ability to identify exactly what's going to move the needle most and train yourself to get that done with a sense of joy and flow rather than being pulled all over the place, you can double or triple the amount of money that you're making so fast, it will make your head spin. So for any entrepreneur, think about the project, that big thing that whether it's a book, whether it's a program, whether it's a new product release, something that you're developing, a big new hire that you need to make. If you could create that thing, bring it to life, help manifest that particular result faster and with less stress, I just want you to imagine how that would move the needle so quickly. Now, if you can imagine that, then think about like 4 or 5 other things. You're like, oh my goodness, if I can get that done, then I could get to that next project. And rather than all of this being stretched out over 4 or 5 years, you'll probably be able to get to it in like 18 months or less if you untoxify from the distraction, the overwhelm, the procrastination. If you get rid of all that junk, it's like a complete system clear and everything runs faster. You know how when your computer crashes and you have all the pinwheels and everything slows down and nothing works and you need a fresh reboot? Time Genius gives you a completely fresh reboot where you're like, I can see clearly now, the rain, right? It's just like,
truly,
it clears everything away. And you're like, all of this other stuff, BS. This is the one thing that's going to move the needle. And not only that, you're going to feel better. You're going to have more energy. You're going to be more creative. Again, these are just the results that I've experienced, you've experienced, your team experienced, and we literally have 1,200 pages of things that people have written to us. I'll tell you really briefly. A woman named Dominica, who is a novelist, she was struggling with procrastination and anxiety. She wasn't getting her next novel done. She took Time Genius, within 2 weeks, finished a completely new novel, and get this, started signing up for singing lessons because she's like, I finally had extra time. I'm like, I don't even know who you are. This is wild. There was Nadia, a math teacher. She reclaimed 72 hours a week. There were all of these different bleeds on her time, from technology to distractions to different things that she was just doing out of habit because she thought that's the way it should be done. And she's like, Marie, I literally regained 72 hours a week of time to do whatever I want to, guilt-free. And then there was one, and do you mind if I read you this one? This is the one that makes me cry. It's from a woman named Melissa, and she's a mom of like 2 young kids. And get this, talk about entrepreneurs who, like, I have so much admiration and respect for her. She started an independent bookstore in rural Alaska. Like, God bless Melissa, right? I love her. Right. So she wrote this. She said, I signed up for Time Genius because I was starting to lose hope that my life could be better than it was. I was beginning to accept that I'd always be overwhelmed, rushing out the door 5 minutes late, hair barely dry, wrangling the kids into a car, frazzled and in a constant state of overwhelm. Every morning I woke up with a jolt at 3 a.m. and again at 6 a.m. with racing thoughts of everything I needed to do, should have, or wanted to do regarding my business. And I would feel cortisol shoot up into my system, taking a toll and changing the outlook on my entire day. I felt behind the moment I woke up. This is what got me, Jen, and I wanted to read this part to you. When my kids said, Mommy, you can bring your work to the park. Mommy, you can work in my bedroom so I can get dressed. That shook me. My life had gotten so far off the rails with constant work, I had become a poor role model for my kids. I remember the moment I asked the universe for help. I want to learn how to take care of myself like I take care of others. And then about a week and a half later, Marie's Time Genius, and I signed up. My 2 kids, Alden and Sophia, are the people besides my husband and myself who benefit the most. They aren't saying, bring my work with me anymore. We've been playing in the evening because I'm not zombie mom by 6 p.m. The pure delight on my daughter's face at playing with me in the evening is all the reinforcement I need to know that I'm never going back to the land of time stress. This is the one that made me cry. Ready? My husband looks at me with profound relief. I watched him as he was telling a friend about the changes he's noticed in me, and Mike is not an emotional man. He struggled for words to capture the changes he's seen. As I watched him, underneath the words, what he was expressing was wonder, celebration, and happiness that I had emerged from under a self-imposed boulder of overworking. The me that he fell in love with, the girl that would hop on a 4-wheeler in this Alaskan island and go fishing or camping, the girl who surfed or kayak in big swells, the goofy girl who would always crack him up, the girl who would experiment with all sorts of creative work in his print studio. She was back. I saw myself through his energy, and it makes me tear up, not because I'm sad that I had been lost, but I'm so grateful for Time Genius because I found my way back through decades of overwork and blossom again. My kids will not inherit the culture of overworking that has been handed down to me. I'm more grateful than you know.
I'm like, oh, I know. Well, and I feel like too, so many people can relate to that, where it's like, even like Drew and I, sometimes it's like, if you notice, like, when is the last time we just like laughed together or like things like that? I think a lot of times when you are under stress like that, and when you are people that literally calculate your steps from the fridge to the laundry, like you miss those like moments that are your life. Like that is like waking up to your life, you know? And I think that's so beautiful. And I think, you know, our children should see us work, but they should also see us be and rest. And they should learn, like, we don't want our children to think that they have to perform to be worthy. Yet that's how a lot of us are working through life.
And we're behaving that way, right?
Yes.
And it's like, we may say one thing, but children model who we are and what we do more than what we say.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I ended up going through the program, and before we sign off, I recorded a whole episode about this, talking about how I went through your program in 5 days. And let me tell you one thing that is really powerful. And for anyone listening is, I think a lot of people are listening have purchased programs and had the best of intentions and have not been able to make it through. And those purchases also, you know, ruin their belief in investing in themselves, or ruin and really hinder this notion of like, I am worthy of the investment because I can follow through and I can get results. And something that was really awesome to me about your program, and probably the reason why I committed to it and ended up, I paid for it, fully was a student, like signed up, subscribed, did the calls, like I was all in, was because I was like, if I am saying that my time is my currency, I can commit 5 days of my time to save myself hundreds and thousands of hours in the future. Walk me through the format for somebody who's listening and is like, I cannot do another course that I'm not going to finish.
Hey, I get it. I intentionally designed this for people like me and for people like us who have so much on their plates and who are already overwhelmed and overstretched and need a major transformation. So you literally go through the program in 5 days. It's less than 2 hours a day total. So you go through it super, super fast. There are these incredible fun sheets that are like magic for
I got them printed, color gel pen, went to Office Max. Like
they're incredible. But this is probably, and I've been in online education for over 2 decades. This is the first program that we have ever had thousands of people going like, that happened so fast. I completed the whole thing. This is amazing. And they're getting results after day 1. So it is the quickest thing you will ever go through. And if you can just carve out 2 hours over 5 days. And by the way, if anyone joins us, you have lifetime access to the content. Yeah. So, you can take, of course, more time than that, but we take people through it because we're like, look, it doesn't take months to get this at all. Just hang out with me for like less than 2 hours a day for 5 days. Your entire life will be different. Mm-hmm. And of course it comes with a money back guarantee because that's how we roll. It's like, you don't have to take my word for it. You can like come in, test it, but it is fast. It's backed by science and common sense. It is not rigid. We have folks who are actually ADHD doctors who have taken it, who themselves are like, I actually feel way better than anything I've done before. Mm-hmm. This is incredible. So we have doctors who have taken it. I have scientists who have taken it and it's transformed their lives. We had someone who was working actually on COVID style work and who was completely overwhelmed given the environment that we're in. And he was like, this was a game changer for me of how I'm showing up to my work. So you don't need a lot of time. You're going to go through it and it will radically transform the rest of your life. Like hand over heart, no qualms about it.
Think about taking 10 hours spread out over 5 days. And like, what if you just saved yourself 10 hours next week? And then what if that compounded? That's what I think is so crazy about learning something and learning skills like this, because it compounds. So you spend 10 hours. So like when I took it, Quinn was like a teeny tiny baby and I would literally walk with her in the stroller and I had my phone in between her little legs. So I was looking down at her and just watched the course the whole time. And it's just like crazy when I think about like you invest this amount and you get to save yourself this time and stress and overwhelm for months and years to come.
Decades.
Decades.
I think the thing that has brought me to tears so much about all of the different people where, I didn't realize how much the stress and the pressure and how it was leading into anxiety and overwhelm. And I had so much shame around that and feeling broken. And, there were times, Jenna, when I didn't have all these pieces in place where I would wake up and go I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I love my life and I love my work, but I was so entrenched in time stress. And after reading these stories, so many people struggling with this sense of really depression, anxiety, feeling worthless. They're not enough. They could never be enough. And their life is passing them by. And it's you don't have to live this way. I promise. You can be your fully creative, you're fully expressive, you're fully accomplished, ambitious self. You can get beautiful work done and you can have a joyful, spacious, freedom-based life.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel like you're never doing enough. You don't have to feel guilty for sitting on a couch or needing to take a rest. There's a completely other possibility when it comes to work and time and life and expression. And as if anyone resonates with this, just come join us, come check it out, because the implication for you and your family, your health, who you are, not just in this immediate, but as you move forward and progress through your life, it'll never be the same.
Where can everybody learn more about Time Genius? Tell me what you're doing to kind of talk about the program, because I think this is incredible. Yes. And you can go to marieandjenna.com and you can just get information on all of this.
Yeah. So we have an amazing free training coming up. It's called 3 Productivity Mistakes You Can't Afford to Make. So you can come take this training with me for free. You'll get an absolute, not only will you get a taste of what this is all about, but you'll get tactics that you can put into place starting right now, and you'll see for yourself how they work. And then if you want to come join us for the full program, you can do that. And when you sign up for that free training, we should also have a guide there, the 3 toxic lies that keep you overstretched, overwhelmed, and under earning, and how to solve for that too. So we've got lots of awesome free information, free training that can get you on this Time Genius path right now. And then if you want to dive in with us fully, you're more than welcome.
Awesome. And you can go to marieandjenna.com. I just want to thank you, because this program, like you promised, absolutely transformed my life. And I think that, looking at the season that I was entering with my book launch and 2 kids and, all of these things, it was just honestly the perfect time to really harness that. And it was so beautiful, because I feel like so many of the tools helped me navigate the busiest season of my career without overwhelm, without burnout, with having finish lines in sight, with having margin. I look at that and I'm like, whoa, if this is not enough for somebody to see, people just say you look different, you have a different energy. And I do attribute so much of that, of releasing that toxicity of more. It's never enough. There's no finish line in sight. You have to keep going. So thank you so much. And thank you for just being an incredible teacher. And more importantly, an incredible friend in my life.
Oh, I adore you. And Jenna, I just want to say, I love you and your work and your community so much. And I want to just congratulate you publicly, your book launch, everything that you've been generating lately. We just talk about how on our team, we're such huge fans of you, and our entire team loves you. So thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. Thanks for being with us today.
Yes. Oh, so good. Amazing. I'll see you guys all inside. Go to marieandjenna.com and let's all become time geniuses together. It's really crazy, because there are times in my entrepreneurial journey where I can draw a line in the sand and say, this was very clearly a before and this was an after. And one of those times is in taking and applying what I learned inside of Marie's program, Time Genius. As a paying student, I invested not only my time, but my money in learning how to compound this investment of claiming my time back. As a mom, as an author, as an entrepreneur, in all of the aspects of my life. And I can see single-handedly the transformation that happened from applying these science-based strategies that Marie shares inside of the program. If anything, I hope that you sign up for her webinar to learn about the 3 productivity mistakes you can't afford to make,
and to join her on this quest for claiming back time as our currency, you can sign up for her webinar at marieandjenna.com. That's marieandjenna.com. I will be there inside learning again from someone who has become a mentor and a friend in my life and someone who has saved me oodles and oodles of time. If anything, I hope that today's episode opened your eyes and gave you some tools and tactics to claim time back in your life and to prioritize your time in a way that helps reduce your stress and overwhelm. And of course, until next time, goal diggers, keep on digging your biggest goals. And thank you so much for spending time with me today.
I'm over here giving you a virtual high five because you just finished another episode of the Goal Digger podcast. Did that go by way too fast for anyone else? If you want more, head over to goaldiggerpodcast.com for show notes and all the discount codes from today's sponsors. And if you're looking for a new crew of movers and shakers like you to bounce ideas and ask questions, be sure to join my exclusive community for Goal Diggers on Facebook. The link's waiting for you at goaldiggerpodcast.com.